We got why people are not getting married anymore.
No one knows exactly when the first marriage took place. People have been getting married for thousands of years. It's an ancient institution, but for some people, it's perhaps a bit too ancient.
89% of the world's population now live in countries with falling marriage rates. This is especially pronounced in the richest countries. Among the 38 OECD nations, most recorded between 7 and 10.
Okay, let's see. Where is the United States? 1970. Okay, so where's the United? Right here, one of the highest. Where's Romania? Out of curiosity, right here. Stayed at about 7. Okay.
Marriages per 1,000 people in 1970. By 1995, this fell to around 5 to 7 marriages.
So Korea here is holding strong in 95. Romania hasn't moved. The United States has dropped. It looked like a dramatic drop. Yeah. So the US, man, isn't that crazy? 1970s, right? Economic prosperity off the heels of the 50s, 60s, World War II, all that stuff. Marriage was declining already, but still high. And America led the world in marriages in the 70s. Is it any surprise that society, that the economy, that culture, music, everything was exporting during the 70s out of America, that the social fabric was strong enough to maintain said empire and its interest, unlike today where it's falling apart and we're being ridiculed worldwide as look at stupid Americans, as look at these woke tards as, essentially being the joke of the world. Luckily, we still got the biggest weapons, so there's that.
Per 1,000 people in 1970. By 1995, this fell to around 5 to 7 marriages, and it continues to plummet today.
Boy, that's 2019. Look at Romania. Look at Malta. Malta's holding up too. Dude, Romania has not changed since the 70s. Fuck yeah, dude. Keep making families out here. I see a lot of pregnant women walking around. I see a lot of cup, a lot of rings. Good shit. Hold strong, boys. And Cyprus. Okay. Malta and Cyprus are pretty small, but damn, that's 20 plus million country to hold the rates that it did. Lithuania is doing pretty good too. And the US dropped, man, by half. It was up near 12. It's now below or right around 6. Sheesh. And who's doing the worst? Finland, Norway, New Zealand, Netherlands, UK, Luxembourg, Slovenia, Belgium, sheesh, Portugal, Chile, Italy, Spain. The places you basically don't want to go to, highly feminized, strong independent boss babe vibes, and the nuclear family's all but destroyed over there too. It's mass hookup culture everywhere. All the boys living in the countries I just listed and some of the other ones that are low as well are escaping, looking to escape.
So why is this happening, and will it spell the end of marriage as we know it?
A stable marriage has often been associated with financial stability. Married households in the US hold significantly higher wealth than cohabiting couples or singles. But despite this, the marriage rate in the US has dropped by nearly 60% since the 1970s. And the median age for first-time marriages has increased for both women and men.
For a variety of reasons, I think upper middle class Americans are just much more likely to be kind of intentional about sequencing their lives in terms of education first, work second, marriage third, and the baby carriage after all of that. And so they're just in a much better spot, both financially and relationship-wise, when they go ahead and have kids.
What? Relationship-wise, they're in a better spot. Most of these people that wait that long are in miserable relationships, desperately trying to have kids, in vitro, all this shit, thinking about surrogates, all these procedures just to get pregnant, all the stress of who's going to be the one to quit work, who's going to sit at home, how are we going to raise a kid when both of us are working all the time. They may be better off financially, but they are worse off psychologically and spiritually for the kid. That kid will not get full-time love from a mother. That kid will be passed around daycares and grow up in a system that's completely broken, devoid of love, devoid of all the psychological needs, the attention that his mother would have otherwise given him at a crucial developmental age from baby to toddler. Likewise, daddy's probably not going to stop working either. So when the boy becomes a teenager, ready to become a man, father will not be present. Extended family of uncles, grandparents will not be present to help usher in this boy into a man. He will not be tested. There are no rites of passages, no rituals, nothing. He just slips into manhood without realizing it. And because mother and father were not present during each critical stage, you now have an adult that has been raised fully in a broken system, thinks the broken system is normal, and has broken behavioral patterns that he deems normal. And you know what they are today. This is why people watch these videos. This is why self-improvement, growth, and spirituality and all this stuff is trending so hard, and men are looking for a way out of the trap and the drudgery of everyday mediocre life and not feeling like you're needed or important or anything whatsoever. Stuck, coping, and escaping from the pain, the digital world, or touching yourself, or God knows 100 million different things that we call products today. Social media, a big one that people use to soothe themselves. And this is considered normal because people can't look back generations, see how it's supposed to be the correct way. We were robbed. The modern world has robbed people of good childhoods. The system we live under only cares about profits in the short term, not what happens to a human being in the long term. They don't care about your happiness. They just care how much money they can get you to spend. They don't care about your health. They just care about how long they can keep you hooked on their product. They don't care about your intelligence, your brain. They just care about how well you can follow direction so they can pay you pennies on the dollar and make money off of you so you could retire at 65, 66, and the retirement age keeps growing to the point where you'll probably work till you're dead. So then you can retire, have a few years, and then die. The system has used you and then discards you very quickly. This is the trap.
The cost of marriage usually starts with a wedding. This is a tiny wedding cake I bought in London for $50, thankfully just within our production budget. But if you wanted the same cake, but big enough to serve 100 people, then you would have to pay at least $250. Add in the price of a venue, a tuxedo, a dress, drinks and music, and suddenly you're looking at a very large bill.
Getting married is just the tip of the iceberg. Starting a family.
And again, that's optional. To have an extravagant wedding, completely optional. For those that want to get opulent with it and have the means to do so, by all means, go ahead. But you can have a private ceremony with the closest family and friends, and the family and friends can help pitch in, help cook, help get the venue ready, help. This is how people do it in other countries. The families actually come together and help make the ceremony happen. The community still comes together, makes the ceremony happen. In the West, that's dead. Maybe the immigrants that have moved there still move in that fashion, but for normal Americans, I could tell you straight up, your community is not getting together. Your local church isn't going to do a goddamn thing. People just want that wedding invite, come get a few photos, eat some free food, clap and dance to the music, and then fuck off to their normal mediocre lives. And then that was it. That's your wedding. It has no more meaning in the community. It's no longer a spiritual event signifying tying the knot, man and woman, for life, to bring life, a new human being in society. It used to be considered a beautiful thing. No longer the case.
Family adds all sorts of economic commitments. It typically starts with a house, followed by a car, maybe kids, which means more expenses like books, toys, and family vacations. In a nutshell, you become a fully engaged consumer in the economy. Some people choose not to go down this road, while others simply can't afford to.
From about 1980 to the present, there's been no greater increase in family instability than there has been among this working class demographic in the US, sort of in basically the second quintile of the family income distribution. I think there are a couple of big factors here in play. So one major factor, of course, is sort of the changing economy and the way in which working class men are less likely to be stably employed.
American adults from high-income groups have maintained a stable marriage rate since the 1970s. But among the middle and especially lower-income groups, marriages declined to 66% and 38% respectively by 2018. Since the 1970s, there has been a decline in the number of American men without college degrees in the US labor force.
Funny enough, this is when we got sold out as say middle class men, factory jobs getting shipped overseas. Remember how I told you? Capitalism, baby. Some people in the comments are like, he's always ragging out capitalism. Well, this is capitalism affecting you, the everyday person, right fucking here, right now. Those are the years where we began moving manufacturing overseas wholesale. Talk about men having stable jobs, and then all of a sudden, poof, you don't have said stable job. And then your fucking marriage rate gets cut in damn near half. This is called profits over people. They want to save a few pennies at the top at the expense of what it will do to middle and lower class America. This is a game about greed, baby. This is why America is where it is. It's the greediest nation on earth.
Last 50 years also saw their earnings stagnate and decrease.
By contrast, we're seeing women having a more secure footing in today's sort of more service post-industrial economy. And so we know that marriage is many things, but it's also in part a financial undertaking. And so when you have men who are losing ground financially in this working class demographic and women who are gaining ground, I think they both kind of...
By the way, if you can, just a PSA for everybody, buy local as much as you can. Look for made in USA. Here in Romania, I buy nothing that's imported. If it doesn't say it's made here, I don't buy it. If the meat, if my food, whatever it is, man, whatever it is that you're shopping for, buy local. Buy as much local as you can. If you live in the United States, I did the same shit. I know it's extremely hard, but supporting local businesses is great. Not only is the product typically good quality and lasts a while, but it helps boost the economy where it really matters. Not letting it get sucked down some black hole where you'll never see it again from some multinational corporation that goes to some pockets of some faceless people that will spend it somewhere where you will never get to trickle down some of that fucking wealth.
See that the guy is less marriageable. And so they're less likely to kind of get married in the first place and more likely to get divorced in the second place.
Another phenomenon that affects marriage is the rise of secularism in modern societies. Here in the UK, for example, 1 in 3 people say they have no religion, up 25% since 2011. And this is a key reason why marriage is no longer the only basis for family formation.
In 2021, 51% of births in the UK took place outside of a marriage. 42% of children in the European Union and 40% of children in the US are also...
Bro, and then when you look at culture, when you look at society degenerating, it's like an imperfect order. The worst family structure and outcomes, United States. That's the worst society to raise a family in right now. The worst society to grow up in right now. The most indoctrinated, full of propaganda, danger, public tragedies happening, people losing their goddamn minds, the craziest videos coming out of what people are doing to each other in public and filming. Right now, the United States. Close second to that, the EU as a whole. Of course it is. It's right there following Daddy United States and whatever it's deciding to import on its slave, the EU. And then the UK, they labeled it by itself because it's probably a broadcast from them, 51%. But it ain't going over there for the UK boys too well. Seen a lot of them leave. Seen a lot of them talking about getting stabbed, getting robbed, can't be walking out at night alone as a woman, to all the gangs, all the little dangerous hoods that have sprouted up recently. It's not what it used to be.
Also born to unmarried parents. For countries where this is acceptable socially, the decline in marriage does not necessarily spell trouble for the country's demographics. But in other parts of the world, most notably in East and South Asia, marriage and birth rates are highly correlated. Only 2.3% of babies are born outside of marriage in Japan, which means if people don't get married, they're also very unlikely to have children. This is a problem for Japan, the world's third largest economy and home to the world's oldest population.
The fall in birth rate is something that happens in many countries. Governments all over the world are worried because of economic implications.
From state-funded matchmaking apps to marriage support concierges, the Japanese government has introduced several incentives to promote marriage. But so far, nothing has worked.
There is this, financial constraint that people feel that they may not be able to support a family and raise children.
A similar problem is troubling authorities in neighboring China, which registered the fewest marriages in 2022 since public records began. The country also saw its birth rate fall to a record low the same year.
By 2050, China's working population will reduce by 10%, and not enough, babies born to fill that gap. And the, dependent population, those who reach retirement age, will double.
In a sharp reversal from its former one-child policy, the Chinese government encourages marriage and childbirth since 2016. But this
is happening everywhere, even in a secular nation like China. Asian countries in general are secular. This is not religious. It's about discipline, traditionalism, expectations, respect, virtues. We no longer have virtuous people or expectations, character. Social media has destroyed the brains of these young people. TV destroyed the brains of my generation. It's sad to say, but people don't carry themselves with the same amount of self-respect, nor are responsibilities placed upon their shoulders like it used to be. Society is infantilized. We're babying people into later into their adulthood, man. It's insane to see how we treat an 18-year-old today, basically like a moronic child, versus what a 1930s 18-year-old was expected to behave like, was expected to be knowledgeable in, was expected to produce and bring forth to the family, this community, and the country at large. Our society's getting dumber. Not only is public education falling off a cliff with each generation going forward, starting with the last few, but our morality and our framework that we used to live by for thousands of generations have also fell off a cliff. Then you throw in the final piece of the puzzle, economics, where you make it impossible even for the very few that have been raised correctly, that have been blessed to have the financial ability to start a family. Even for those very few, they're looking at the world today. They're looking at the financial pressure overall in society, the uncertainty of another crash or a corporation going belly up and then them being left with nothing. There's no more putting in 20, 30, 40, 50 years at a company and it being stable. You're actually penalized. We know that every 2 years you got to leave a company to get a decent size raise. If you stay at the same company, that 2-cent raise a year isn't going to cut it. That pat on the back doesn't help pay the bills. How do you expect a working man to start a family when raises are shit, inflation is out of control, job opportunities already non-existent, half of them got shipped overseas, education, where? The debt from that is crushing people. And then you have the minds of the opposite gender, but men too, poisoned by social media, by dating apps, by culture at large, so that even if two people were a decent match for one another, they probably have so much trauma they'll break it before they could even find out if they're good for one another. It's sad, man. And it's getting worse. The population collapse is imminent. It's real. This next generation and the generation coming after them with the NPC TikTok trend and all that shit, do you see how bad it's getting? Imagine thinking the NPC TikTok trend and it making thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the creators. Imagine telling someone in the 50s, watch this is entertainment. 70s, watch this is entertainment. Hell, go back to just year 2000. Watch this is entertainment. What comes next, man? What's 10 years from now? This is like de-evolving rapidly. What's going to be considered culture, the art 20, 30 years from now? Is there going to be anything left? Anything of value? Anything that makes you think? What does that do, man? Because isn't culture like the bead of like having your finger on the pulse of how well a society's doing? When they're producing incredible art, when the culture is in its like enlightenment stage. Like look at how we look at ancient Greek, ancient Romans, other ancient societies during their golden era, how they were building buildings, the music, the ballads, the Iliads, all the crazy culture that standed the test of time. Even to this day, that is a sign of how well society was doing at one point. What is our test of time? What are we going to be left with in the next few generations? What art are they going to be creating? The NPC trend where you're fucking making noises, repetitions for stickers on a screen? That's the culture we're exporting? That's the level of society at? That's how well we're doing? Dude, we're in deep shit.
Time is Chinese women who have reservations about married life.
And the women tend to spend significantly much more time than their husband in childcare and other related care. And also the Chinese workplace is not very women-friendly. And why women don't want to get married, why women don't want to have children is because this society is not women-friendly, the society is not child-friendly.
Men talk about the personal freedom that they get for not getting married. But at the same time, they are really worried that if they were to set up a family, they will not be able to sustain a family with the income.
The Western heart is closing in an important extent to marriage and family life. And that's going to have a huge impact, not just economically, but also obviously socially and emotionally on young adults today.
Amen on that one.